Hi, I'm Veronica, and welcome to my channel and to my series where I encourage you to foster more resilience in your nervous system. If you haven't done it yet, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you don't miss any of my episodes. And if you haven't seen my theory introduction to this series, I would highly recommend it. So in the previous episodes, I was showing you and explaining how it's a better approach to take some tiny doses of discomfort rather than always avoid or escape any level of discomfort. And that is what ultimately brings the resilience, whether it's the resilience in your bodily tissues or resilience in your nervous system. And today I would like to show it on the example of building the resilience in your respiratory system. Now, this is very important and it's not a random choice because the respiratory system and the nervous system are very closely interlinked and one has a very direct effect on the other. So what we're going to do is to try to reverse a very common pattern that is appearing among people who struggle with anxiety, to hyperventilate, to take a lot of air in, more than necessary. And what that does over a longer period of time is that you become hypersensitive to the carbon dioxide, to the CO2 in your blood. And even tiny spikes in CO2 create that physiological stress response. So if you want to reverse it, you have to make yourself more used to those higher levels of CO2 in your bloodstream. So basically, you're going to go through some level of discomfort of taking less air in than you're used to. But overall, this is going to make you more resilient to anxiety and stressful situations in the future. So you don't really need anything for this practice. You can do it in any seated position. If you're ready, we can begin. It's always a good idea to move a little bit, or at least purposefully release any tension that you might be noticing in your body before you start the breathing practice. So it might be something as simple as stretching and yawning, just as you would when you first wake up. It's the way for your body to reset the tonus of your muscles in a very natural way. And if you add to that some kind of spontaneous, intuitive movements and just feel good at the moment, this is gonna be even enhance that element of releasing the unnecessary tension. You might also do something like purposefully tensing up, for example, your shoulders and neck for a moment, and then use the exhalation to release it, to undo it, to let it settle wherever it wants to settle, not to correct it or do the opposite, but just let it settle wherever it wants to. You could do the same with your facial muscles, tensing up and releasing into this more soft space. You could do it with the entire posture, kind of rounding yourself and then releasing and softening. You might also do something like a little bit of rocking the pelvis forward and backward, so that eventually you find a place where you're effortlessly upright. So you don't want to create any unnecessary tension in your belly or in your back to maintain this posture. And the same goes for the position of the head. Find where it feels the lightest. That's when we can begin. So what we're going to attempt today is to breathe really gently. And it's very important that you feel the difference between breathing into your upper chest. And if you're not sure about that, you can even place your hand over your upper chest and notice if that area around the shoulders and upper chest lifts a lot when you inhale, and maybe where there is the muscles in your neck kind of turning on like this when you take an inhale. And that is what it would be like if you dropped it, if you tried to keep all of that upper area of your shoulders and neck and the upper chest really quiet, and instead feel the movement more in the lower rib cage and in your belly. Just to show it to you, the movement will be more here, here, then here. Okay? Instead of this, it stays quiet, the movement is here, sideways, or forward in the belly. So you can practice that for a moment, and if that already feels like quite a lot of struggle and it's not accessible for you at all, then please check out other of my videos where I teach you how to gain that awareness and how to bring the breath to that lower portion of your torso. Okay, so for now, do not worry about it too much. Just try to keep your neck and your shoulders as soft as you can for the moment, and drop that breath a little bit lower, deeper. And what we're going to do is try to breathe really subtly. So sometimes you hear like to take a deep breath, and the first thing you would do when you hear take a deep breath is that massive breath that fills up your entire lung. And that is actually quite loud and like a really big movement. So we're going to do exact opposite today. Take breaths that are so subtle that you won't be able to hear them yourself, and certainly the person that would be sitting next to you would not hear them either. So really subtle breaths that come in and out through the nose. And again, if you struggle with breathing through the nose, check out this video. I give you some tips on that. So it's very important that you breathe through the nose, because that already really largely reduces the volume of the air that is coming into your body with each inhalation, right? Imagine the volume of the air that comes through that mouth and just through those two little nostrils. Okay, so that's already might be bringing you into that zone of discomfort if that's something that you're not used to. And we're gonna purposefully stay with this discomfort. Now, you can come out of it if you suddenly feel that, this feels like so little air for me. I need to take a deeper breath in. I need to take a breath through the mouth. Then you can do it at any moment. It's just about staying within your window of tolerance. So being kind of on the edges of what feels doable for you at the moment. And then gradually, this is going to increase. So the fact that you're breathing through the nose and that you're sending the breath much lower already slows down the breath. The fact that it's not audible makes it much more subtle. So we're going towards that really quiet and subtle and slow breath. And let's just practice that for some time. Slow, but very gentle, not deep, not a big volume inhale. And the exhale that comes naturally, that is not active, in a sense that it's just the emptying. and softening, rather than the engagement of the abdominal muscles to create that squeezing air out. We're not squeezing the air out, we're letting it slowly and gradually leave us, also through the nose. So very subtle, slow, low volume breaths. And there might be moments when you're like, oh, I should take a deeper breath in, and check how long you can stay with that. Do I really have to take that deeper breath in? What if I just stayed with that tiny bit of discomfort purposefully out of my own free will for a little bit longer? And then if it doesn't work, I take a deep breath in, and check also for how your body is responding to all that. So if you start feeling that you're tensing up, your jaws are tensing up, your shoulders, your belly, maybe the pelvic floor, whatever in your body, and you start feeling that your heart is racing, then you're like, okay, let's take a little bit deeper breaths, or let's take a break from it all for a couple of rounds of breaths, and then let's see how it goes if I come back to it. So you're staying with this really subtle inhale and exhale, and keep going. Subtle inhale, subtle exhale. Trying to check if the jaw remain relaxed, your tongue, your neck, the shoulders. And maybe you can extend that inhale and exhale even more. If counting works for you, you can add the count. It doesn't need to be the count, but just make it long inhale and long exhale. They might be exactly even, or the exhalation might be even a tiny bit longer than inhalation. Any ratio that works for you, but slower and at low doses. No sudden intake of the air, no abrupt exhale. It's really smooth and quiet. And it might feel unsafe, it might feel uncomfortable, it might feel very alien, very strange. You want to stay within your window of tolerance. If the body is telling you, oh, this is too much, I really can't take it, you stop, take a break. If it just feels like this is unfamiliar, this is strange, I don't like it, you try to stay with it a little bit more. And maybe even keep slowing down that breath. If we were using the counting, increase the count on the inhale and increase a little bit the count on the exhale. Keeping inhale and exhale even, or the exhale a bit longer than inhale. All the time monitoring how your body responds to that. Is everything quiet? The muscles are relaxed. You're already telling yourself that this is okay to take less air in and you're still perfectly fine. It's not harming you in any way. You are reframing it. In fact, you might even notice that it's somehow making you calmer, potentially. It might take a long practice to get to the point when that starts feeling comfortable and calm, as this reframing process takes time. Now, if that feels super comfortable and even calming, just as I mentioned, you might feel something like more saliva in your mouth. And you feel you could go on like this forever, you can introduce one more element. If it doesn't feel comfortable at this stage, stay with that. Don't go to that next practice, as it's definitely going to throw you out of that window of tolerance. So the next time, you can start focusing on the pauses that happen naturally, and maybe you haven't noticed them before, but those little pauses that happen at the end of the inhale and the end of the exhale. And check if it would be possible for you to hang out for a longer period of time in that pause after the exhalation. So you inhale, pause, exhale, pause, and extend that pause after the exhalation before you take the next inhale. As if you're exhaling, and then there is a short pause before you take the next inhale. Basically, you're introducing a tiny snippet of a breath hold, but the one that is okay for your window of tolerance for now. And if you start feeling that, again, this is creating that physiological stress response, come back to the even rhythm, drop the pauses, or maybe even stop that altogether and take a big inhale and sigh out, or do whatever you need to do. So you can always do that. You're in charge. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm saying. It really depends on where you are right now. So tiny pauses. And maybe you can even try a pause that feels a little bit longer before you take the next inhale. But check that that next inhale is not gonna be like desperate, like a gasp for the air. So let's say you inhale and exhale. You pause for a moment and watch out that it's not that big inhale that's gonna be loud, that maybe you're gonna hear going like with a sound through your nose, or that is gonna lift your upper shoulders and chest. So stop for only, hold that breath out only for as long as the next inhalation still feels soft, quiet, with the softness all over the body. Like this, we're really playing with that area of discomfort or something that is not familiar, but always keeping it really safe and very gradually increasing the window of tolerance. So maybe 3, 4, or 5 rounds of breath when you include this little break after the exhale. And whenever you had enough, you have enough. Come back to your natural rhythm of breathing without controlling anything at all. And observe for a moment. How does it feel like? Where does breath is, even when you don't control it? Do you feel it in slightly different section of your torso? Is it less in the upper part, more lower towards the lower ribs and abdomen? How is the body and the overall sensation? And if you need to do something like now to take a sigh, again, stretch and yawn, or do something with your body, then please feel free to do that. There might be this kind of responses happening throughout whatever you're gonna do today. There might be this need to move or to sigh or to make a sound. So try not to restrict it. Let that happen. And that's as simple as this. And you could really practice it anytime, anywhere, many times throughout the day. And overall, this is really going to start to change the tolerance for the carbon dioxide. And as a result, it's going to make you more resilient towards stress, less reactive. That's a sympathetic nervous system response, that fight and flight response is not going to jump on, turn on just as easily. So I hope that you enjoyed this practice. If you liked it, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And what I'm showing you in this series are more kind of long-term strategies to start building and fostering the resilience in the nervous system. But if you need something as a first aid, you're right in the intense moment, that is not what you're going to use. There are other strategies. So I would like to invite you to download my free audio first aid for anxiety, some 7-minute long audio that will guide you through what you can do when you are already in the very activating situation. You can download it from my website, www.withmetta.eu. I will link it below, and I'll see you next week.